here is what nobody in real estate is talking about right now. The industry is loud. Brokers nationally are spending millions on marketing. Tech companies are threatening all kinds of disruption, and discount brokers are essentially saying that expertise doesn't really mean anything. We are going to cut through the noise today, and we are going to talk about the real facts. I am with Sharry Schmid, the CEO of Edina Realty Home Services. Sharry, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
For being back with us today. We have got a lot to talk about, and we want to make it compact and short, so let's dig right in.
Sounds good.
What do you think about, how do you dial into what is quite confusing in the marketplace, what you're hearing on the news right now? The consumers are getting all kinds of information that is so dynamic and really not true.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me where do you begin and where do you end very, very quickly for our audience?
I think there's a couple key themes right now. One is interest rates and where are those at? And for everybody, this is what I would say. They are at historically great levels. So if we set that one aside, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we set that piece aside, the other piece that gets talked about, and as you're scrolling like we're all doing, the other piece that you read about is housing supply.
Mm-hmm.
In one article you'll see there's too much and they're in a buyer's market. In another article you'll see inventory is tight and there's not enough inventory. So what I would say to that, and like we've talked about in previous broadcasts that you've done, you got to go local, and you really have to look at your local expert, your real estate expert, and talk to them about what's happening in your specific market area. I can tell you for the Twin Cities market, we still are under 3 months supply of inventory, which absolutely puts us yet and still in a seller's market.
Very much so.
The third piece that I would talk about is like you discussed with big tech companies and disruption coming to all these different industries, and what does that mean to real estate?
Right.
Again, I'll go back to my main theme, which is you need that local expert and that local expertise. AI or whatever is being built and whatever your favorite AI bot is at the moment can't replace that intuitive knowledge of what's happening on the street day to day. And as you know, that's fluid and that's constantly changing.
And very relationship fronted. Functionally, one of the things I love to talk about to a populace is what's going on in the moment when we step into a household and what is happening in terms of the consumer's interpretation, your interpretation of the market and how you sell a home, and the competition we're up against. We'll look at the state of Minnesota right now. Fact, there are 27,000 agents in our state. Fact, on average, I'm competing with anywhere from 4 to 10 other agents when I step into a listing appointment. Fact, I know for a fact that we have the best and deepest networking capacity to find the right match for a home effectively and seamlessly as an organization because of our relationships, not only internally as an organization with 2,200 agents within the company, owning, I think, approximately 45% of the market share, which we'll talk about, how valuable that is to you individually in our local market and where you're going in the country or globally. I want to talk about all of that in a very short 10-minute span today. So when I'm competing, in your perspective, when you look at our competition right now, what do you think from your lens when you're watching the news right now? What does the consumer think? Because I know what I'm answering and I'm spending 2 to 3 hours doing it. As it relates to how we can help them.
I think the biggest thing, as a seller and sitting down with you, it's, that, again, that expertise. When you are walking into the home, what is that experience? What's that feel? Your expertise can immediately tell me as a seller, this is what someone's going to experience. Here's how we optimize that. Here's how we maximize that for you. Not only giving me as a seller, you'll give me that specific direction, but you're also going to be able to take that into the Edina Realty network, into a broader network because of what you've done and the amount of years you've done it, all the agents that you've worked with, and they respect what you're doing. So you're able to network with them. And I would add, in addition to that, with Edina Realty being part of home services, that gives an even broader network across the entire nation.
Yeah, it's really interesting. A lot of people don't understand, what does home services really mean? It is an interconnected web that connects us to a plethora of resources to get your product in front of everybody in real time. I call it dropping a domino perfectly. We're not only loving on our community and your next door neighbor, we're making sure every single person nationally and globally at one drop knows about your property. It's very, very powerful. And I think, Sharry, a lot of people assume because we've been a local broker for so long, that means we're local. So explain to them what that means, because you are home services, my dear.
Yes. Yeah, and one of the things that I think gives us such a unique perspective is that with Edina Realty's rich history, we do and have, in terms of our market share, dominated in the number one position now for 26 years, and we don't take that for granted by any means.
That's
but
right.
It's because we're here locally, but we're supported by a very large national brand, Home Services, which is ultimately owned by Berkshire Hathaway. And so
Powerful.
with that, and like Cari Ann, like you referenced, with that, we've got sister companies throughout the country, similar to Edina Realty. And as the CEO of Home Services, Chris Kelly, like he likes to state, we've got that local knowledge, local expertise, led locally, powered by a powerhouse and a national brand behind Home Services.
It's brilliant, really. It really is. And so meaningful to have the bandwidth and understanding. You have 85% of the national population of realtors out there that functionally entered the market around COVID. They're fairly new to the marketplace. If we were to put a percentile on tenured agents in the country that have been doing this work and have really experienced every kind of market imaginable, right? This being a pretty good one. I think people's interpretation, even with everything happening globally and politically in the world, make no mistake, the real estate market is an extremely powerful place, and it's doing very, very well right now. So when you circle back to the understanding of what our leverage is as a tenured organization, explain to them what that percentile looks like if you look at the national group of realtors selling real estate in the United States. What's that number look like to you?
So at Edina Realty, one of the things that we are proud of is over 40% of our realtors are employees, because that they also support what the realtors are doing and ultimately in helping in listing and selling your home. But over 40% of them have been with the company for 10 years or more. So to your point, they've been through COVID. They've been through many of the cycles that we're very accustomed to as a brand, as a company, that happen and occur within real estate. So we know how to weather those. We know how to prepare for it and move ourselves through it, and ultimately our buyers and sellers.
And I think it's important to understand that, because functionally the sale of a personal home, is highly emotional, most importantly, highly psychological, and you have to be able to have the maturity and the experience to navigate that complexity. There's no amount of technology or, shall we say, newness out there that's going to make that particular scenario better. It's strictly and solely in the experience. So I think it's interesting, especially with discount brokers, I'm just going to say it, that they seem to think an experience is not relevant. I just think that's so fascinating, because it's absolutely the most important and critical part of selling the most expensive piece of your portfolio, or purchasing it for that matter. So cycling back to the marketing piece of it, we see that quite a lot in the media. It's like, you don't need to do that anymore. We can do X, Y, Z because of AI or because of this marketing technique. We can be a discount position because you don't need to, or we don't need to spend the money on X, Y, Z. Explain to the consumer how much more complex it's been. If the cost to operate and manage the consumer and all of the information is part of, and then of course the marketing components where there's been added expense, I think it's important to have that conversation because I don't think anybody is, and it is relevant and it is important and it must be done well to make sure you are getting the best value as a buyer and the highest sale price as a lister. What are your thoughts on that?
I think
I know that's a lot.
I think a couple of things that you keyed in on. You know, selling your home, buying your home is not a transaction. And I think the difference between the way we look at it as an organization and you know, others look at it versus maybe, you know, the difference in what you might see in terms of somebody coming in and, you know, offering whatever is this is not a simple transaction by any stretch.
Yeah.
It's your home. And with that, all the nuances, all the variables that go into it, there's a skill set and there's an expertise. It's not a matter of, you know, you simply list it somewhere and it just automatically sells.
That's true.
There's a significant portion that goes into the whole marketing of it. And then from that, it's taking a buyer through and the seller through, you know, if there's changes that have to happen, it's a result of an inspection. There are laws and regulations in our industry that can make your head spin because there's a lot that has to be navigated.
And there's a lot more than there used to be.
That can change depending on which way a transaction goes. And so your real estate expert has to have knowledge of that and has to, you know how to help navigate those elements. And again, coming back to, you know, a simple transaction, or as, you know, we might hear somebody say they could do it through AI. AI is not at that level and isn't going to be at that level anytime soon.
Yeah.
It was interestingly enough, it was an AI developer who talked about specifically, you know, the roles that are critical right now fit exactly into what real estate professionals do because they have the personal relationship that they have to navigate others through, other people through, and they have to understand the nuances of the laws and the regulations that are out there.
At the same time. Yeah, and I think that the success of a great agent, and there are many out there to choose from, most certainly. I'm not discounting the opportunities to match, but really think about what you're reading, what you're watching, and ask the right questions when you're interviewing. They're there for you. And really pay attention to the details because they absolutely matter. I can't tell you how many times I've stepped in after a home has been on the market for a period of time to sweep up, and we've ended up on and off the market faster and for more money. It's about the quality and the outcome. You can make tens to hundreds of $1,000s more on a sale of a property and also save that on the buy side, depending on which end you're on, by making sure the representation is spot on. Okay, so talked about that. Now I want to talk about there's going to be an onboarding of some new technology with what the marketing department's doing with Edina Realty locally. Do you want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, I'd love to. You know, what again, just looking at our history, looking at, you know, what we need to provide so that our buyers and sellers have the best experience and the best results. And with that, again, that national perspective, we're excited to be able to team up with our sister companies from across the country to be able to streamline and automate our systems, our processes, ultimately, which will help in the marketing and the overall transaction flow for buyers and sellers. So we're very excited about that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a brilliant combination. So a company like me, I've worked with Edina Realty for 28 years now, never not had an enormous amount of respect. I love the partnership. I run a company under the brokerage, which I love the partnership doing that. So it's almost a double down because I have my own unique perspective on how I want to market, and I pair it and partner it with Edina Realty's marketing plan, which is so completely advanced in my mind in terms of its reach. What I love most about the relocation work we're doing, and a lot of it's international right now, moving a lot of people in and out of Europe right now. I've worked with a number of attorneys and doctors over the last 2 years, to the national relocation component, which relocation's been interesting because it's changed a lot internally, but functionally there's an enormous amount of it happening, and a lot of it our direction. which has been a really interesting thing to watch. 75% of the activity in our open houses right now is coming in from other parts of the country. What do you think about that?
Well, I think there again, it comes back to us being able to have that local presence, but then again, working with in coordination with the home services company. So again, all those sister companies and all of their relocation departments, their marketing teams, and it's very collaborative. And so that gives us that advantage of having both.
Okay, so spring market's here, Sharry. What do you want to impart on our lovely viewers today before we finish up?
Well, echoing, spring market's here, so it's busy. There's a lot of great opportunities. Inventory is there. Again, it's still a seller's market, but it's not that crazed where it was so hard for buyers a few years ago to find what they were looking for.
I agree.
The finds and the buys are certainly there, definitely there. So again, you know, as you're looking, doing your searching, to reach out and really, you know, contact your local expert in terms of their real estate knowledge. There's a lot of value there, but again, a lot of opportunities.
Okay, Sharry, I love spending time with you. I really do.
Thank you.
You're a wealth of information. I love watching you. All of the speaking engagements that you're doing locally and nationally, they're really fun to hear. You're always valuable. So thank you for being with us
today. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being with us again today. We will see you next time on Fly the Coop.